Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is 2/2/2 in the year 2024. As I approach in 3 days' time, my 44th birthday. Unlike other conspiracy theorists, and I'm more of a conspiracy realist with the big-time spiritual side of myself and how I view the situation that we are in here on the earth, but I view numbers to have power. I've been seeing a series of numbers in the last couple of months, 144, series of 4s, series of 3s. I've seen it my whole life, in fact. What I'm telling you is that we're entering into solar maximum. And what I'm telling you here at the onset of this show, which is an introduction, this is an introduction to a series of shows on this topic as we approach this year of 2024 and next year, the solar peak of this solar cycle, 2025, a period in which for years I've speculated about World War III. As Alex Jones says, the answer to 1984 is 1776. In reality, the answer to World War III in 2025 is service to the Creator. But we're not out of the woods in 2026 or 2027 for those of you that are aware of future plots. But for those of you talking about 2030, and for those of you talking about other things, those are relevant things. But at times, I feel that they are distracting you by future tripping and dystopian movies about what could be in the future instead of you taking responsibility and accountability for your world right now. So I can guarantee you this, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, the content you're getting from yours truly now is unmatched by other humanoids on the earth. Out of a planet of 8 billion, I'm the only one speaking of a certain combination of topics, and I take pride in that. And that's why, and with your help, but even without your help, it will still happen. They will read my words in 100 years. So, in a matter of a month, there will be more people here on this channel and on Substack. And so, over the course of the next month, my focus will be specialized. There's a number of reports that talk about the potential for war and conflict in various areas on the planet regarding this year, 2024, and next year. Talks about war with China over Taiwan. And in this report, I'm just going to speak freely. I'm going to share with you a couple of these reports. And in a future episode, you'll see the documents. You'll come to the Substack. You'll subscribe to the Substack. And you will read the documentation for yourself. You will bookmark the articles for yourself. You will have the evidence. You will have the documents. But in this case, we were talking about something very, very real that is, in fact, too hot to handle for many talk show hosts, including those in the conspiracy theory movement, because, in my opinion, they've been brainwashed into thinking that Russia can do no wrong. They've been brainwashed into thinking that they can look the other way. When Russia and China build the one world order, they think they can look the other way and guarantee it's going to be a government false flag if we get hit with an EMP. They're already pre-programmed to say, the U.S. did it, Russia's innocent. They're already prepared to defend Putin's attack on America. I can't believe I have to say this. This is a new aloe vera plant. I have 4 on rotation. They get sunlight. They get full spectrum light, so they stay alive during the winter. And then they're on rotation in my bedroom as I sleep at night. I felt a certain amount of spiritual attack last week when I invoked the name Dion Fortune. For those of you familiar with the Magical Battle of Britain, if you want a copy of her book, see me after class. Email me. All that information is available at the end or in the descriptions or wherever you're watching this or in the comment sections if they're open. Really, I need people to support my alternative platforms that I am creating. Okay, so I shared a lot of content with you. It's basically been a 6-month cycle since coming back, okay? Turn the Wi-Fi now as I talk, so I'm not distracted by news and pop-ups. And so over the course of the last 6 months, I've told you a great deal of some of the challenges that I faced by simply being different and talking about certain topics. So it's not a matter of wanting certain things to happen. I don't want certain things to happen in the future, like what that gentleman told me in 2007 about the fall of the USA. But are we not on this path? So let's look at a few things, and I'm just going to verbalize it. You can look up the articles on your own. China and Russia to lead New World Order. China developing brain weapons that can put people to sleep, but they're just going to use it on the leaders of Taiwan. You don't have to be worried, America. We got Donald Trump with a Chinese corporation tied to the Chinese government renting office space in Trump Tower, other ties to China, but he's positioned to be the savior. Biden takes the fall for the whole thing. Biden's a monster. Biden doesn't care about the Afghan people, in my opinion. Biden, touchy the children. I made a video about that even InfoWars highlighted years ago. For those that don't know that, I'm not a Biden fan, but I'm not in the left-right paradigm. So I'm going to calmly reset and bring this to center repeatedly as we talk. That there's a left-right paradigm that people are stuck in, and I don't see anybody in 2024 being your savior. Let's move on. Okay, so what's this about the Chinese militias? Chinese militias being prepared in China for some sort of warlike event. Let's move on. How many of you have been told by Alex Jones or others out there that China was engaged in a drill with the United States in the event of a major earthquake? How many of you know that Portland, Oregon is overdue for a major earthquake and that the next big one, the bridges could go down? They've done reports on this. How many of you know that there's Chinese investment in Portland, Oregon? How many of you have tried to look up this article involving the former mayor of Portland, Charlie Hales, in the ribbon cutting ceremony? How many of you remember the former governor of Oregon, Kitzhaber, saying Oregon is open for business? And I read that article on the show and literally made a caricature out of him. You know, it's like he's slapping the ass of Oregon going, come and take it, China. We're open for business. Wank, wank. So, yes, there's a positive and a negative aspect of doing business with China. On one hand, it is something that will bring prosperity initially, as we see China bringing infrastructure to the world that the U.S. destroyed. So I see China right now playing this role as the good guy. And so for people that are gullible, they're going to look at this and they're going to encourage China's rise and whatever China suggests. And yet, is China doing their part? For those of you that are into the official view of global warming and cutting emissions, yes or no? The answer is no. Okay, so even though there is corruption within our own government, we have been programmed, especially the conspiracy theory movement that's mainstream, to hate our own people and to hate our own government. And there's also hypocrisy, because while they do that, they also play up the Blue Lives Matter, law and order. Trump can do no wrong, while saying they're free of the left-right paradigm. So I see myself as a digital shaman try to wake a lot of you people up. I want to be in a free flow here, but kind of, again, I'm trying to encourage myself to start narrowing down the focus to what we're dealing with in the next couple of years. If you have the ability to get prepared, you should, but you can't discount spiritual preparedness and increasing the amount of time that you're adjusting your body to the sun so you don't freak out when these intense electromagnetic waves of energy hit you in your chest. If you have a cardiac issue, okay, you need to do certain things in the next couple of years because you're going to be facing additional stress factors. Do you understand what I'm getting at? So I encourage weightlifting. I bet if we were to look at membership gyms increasing at this time, I can't do a call to action for any gyms, right? But, you know, there are gyms you can check out and do like a free trial or something. I don't like the energies of gyms. I'm already off topic. I just joined one recently and put down a fair amount of money for a year. And really after taxes, it wasn't that. It was still was more like $30 a month. But I went into the gym and it was just gross. Point being, go out and do things. Get in nature. Find your power spot. Go out to the park. If you're listening to me in Portland, I'm sure you know about Laurelhurst, but I'm sure it's deteriorated since I was there. If you haven't seen my episode on being homeless in Portland, living in my car, check that out or see me after class. That may be airing on Portland Community Media in the near future. I do my report on homelessness. And so I don't hide that from you, because I want you to understand that I came from hardship. And just because I'm trying to look a little cleaner than normal, don't look down on that either. Some will, because if you want the grunge, unshaven mountain man look, folks, you got it for years. You got the unshaven mountain man, wild look, no haircut, no shower, no running sanitation. You got the off-grid look for years and years and years. And so, if I'm going to have the opportunity to be clean in a dirty, dirty world in which cleanliness is godliness and people will judge you when you just let your hair out. I mean, did you see what I looked like? Did you see what I looked like at Mark Passio's conference? Do you think that if I looked like this as opposed to that people would have ignored everything that I said about the Son, including Passio himself? God bless his soul. Great job, Passio. Hey, Paul, if you're listening, send Passio my clips every week. That'd be great, because he's wrong to think that there aren't other people out there talking about natural law, morality, and ethics. Passio ignores me, but I do not ignore him, and I have shown you good things that he has said. So when he talks about the war on the goddess, listen up, Portland folks. I talked about that city that I came out of the womb in, that created the energy construct that brought my parents together, that created my life. And even if my parents don't really like me that much and refuse to congratulate me when I make certain milestones, right? That doesn't mean that my birth was an accident or was the result of some sort of nefarious agenda, like what is talked about in Eve Lorgan's Dark Cupid. Eve Lorgan's Dark Cupid. And if you haven't heard my interview with her, check that out, right? You can ask yourself, as many people have moved to Portland, Oregon, did they themselves get a love bite? And not just Portland, but other places, for those listening elsewhere. Have you ever been in a situation where it wasn't just someone that you thought you loved, but a place you thought you loved? And that you did everything to quit your job and do this and that to move somewhere else, but it wasn't the proper thing. So listen, many of you are going to be feeling instinctively with the solar flares, and here's a book here. Sounds like a pole shift. Some of you have been speculating about a pole shift for years, but you have never been told by the Islamophobes that in the religion of Islam, they have a prophecy about the sun rising in the west, and that being a sign of either the end times, the rise of the Dajjal, at the very least, our world changing as we know it, and it would be seen by a rising sun in the west. Sounds like a pole shift to me. Okay. So, there is a war on the true solar gnosis, not to be confused with the Arabic book on the sun gnosis, which I won't read, which is an occult book. But when I say solar gnosis, it's different. I mean true knowledge of the sun and how we are spiritually connected to it. There are magnetic portals that connect us to the sun. And I do believe that there are forces of evil that we might call evil, jinn, demon, archon, asura, that are also solar powered, that are powered by the sun, that feed on us, that the sun gives life, even to those things that parasite on us. Now, if you want to, start doing some research, if this subject matter is new to you, my views on the sun go a little deeper than suspicious observers and others, even if I'm not popular and I'm shadow banned, right? And I'm not the dude with the land, and I'm not Oppenheimer Ranch and all them with the counts. You need to understand, just because some people are popular and they seem really cool and they seem like their lives are great and all this, doesn't necessarily mean that they're telling you all that you need to know about the sun. Okay? The things that I'm discussing are relevant. And, here are 2 books that came out since my ebook. Okay? So these were just purchased. I just purchased these books. And this gets into solar maximum. So I never said that there will never be a GSM. It's that right now in this cycle, it's an intense one. What will be after this? Will we see a GSM that could lead to an ice age? Maybe, but we're not there yet. We have to acknowledge the present moment and not future trip so intensely that we're not even grounded in what's literally in front of our face. And so it was never meant to be a war with the GSM crowd, but some people made it that way. They're like, solar minimum is the only thing that's real. We're not affected by the solar flares, including Bob Felix, who was on my show. And let's talk about that in a minute or less. I helped bring Bob Felix to Portland, Oregon, when I helped open up a survival store for 2 followers of a cult leader by the name of Ramtha, a.k.a. Jay-Z Knight. While there's aspects of metaphysics, I don't really like the New Age, to what you focus on increases. I don't believe in just leaving God out of it and being a racist maniac. And Ramtha is not well, and nor are her followers and those connected to James Gillen of the Ansary Ranch. If you look at James Gillen's Facebook page, you can see the hate seething from his consciousness towards anybody outside of the European race coming into America. And while I stand by you being concerned about our borders, you got to understand the plight of some of these people and why they're fleeing some regions. You can't label them all a threat if you're spiritual and you're ascended, right? And I will not accept this type of belief system that the spiritual ascension 5D movement, the idea of moving beyond the primitive reptilian animalistic consciousness, is compatible with hating other people. And so for those of you that are in the Pacific Northwest, you need to understand that you are not, in my eyes, holding people in your own community accountable. You're just looking at Trump and you're not holding them accountable. I'm speaking calmly and directly because I want to help you. And there are spiritual people that are within the Northwest and around the world, but it's sad that when you see the darkness and the hypocrisy of the left, of the woke movement, that you become angry at anybody that might also have a story of injustice. Just because the woke movement is hijacked and taken over by dark forces doesn't mean that all the complaints about Nazism are illegitimate. You will be reminded that when Alex Jones started, when William Cooper started, when Anthony Hilder started out in the late 1990s and 2000s, it was anti-Nazi at the onset. And they were pointing the finger at George Bush for 9/11. And the left dropped the ball by letting Alex Jones become the most dominant force in the room. To sit there and say Black Lives Matter and question the official story when a black guy is shot and then ignore the official story, or to go along with the official story of the military-industrial complex when you know they can't be trusted. And so if you really want to be counterculture, you got to question the establishment. And I'll tell you, if they've got it set up for if you're on the left, you're pro-vax, and if you're on the right, that you're anti-vax, unless you're Trump himself will admit he's pro-vax, which is ridiculous that people still support him that are anti-vax. It just shows like the level of insanity taking place. And what I'm saying is don't attack the people that took the vax. Don't call for them to die. And I've called out people that I wanted to have friendly relationships with, but I will not allow them to call for people that took the vax to die. And even though I'm a conspiracy tard in the eyes of some people out there that don't know the first thing about standing against injustice and the real white supremacy going down in the streets and in the digital hood of the algorithms, I do. I go where no man does in the conspiracy movement. I'm my own little world. Hell, I might even be manifesting my own planet in my soul's future. I really don't know what's coming at me. But what I do know is this. I do identify with something more than human. And I'm not afraid to say that. I believe we are now living in some sort of a slumber. I believe I'm Morpheus now, energetically, telling you this is the real world, Neo. The real world in 2024. This is the real world, Neo. The anti-war movement is dead. There is no love and light movement. There are no positive off-grid movements en masse. And people get angry with me when their blind spots are called out. Women of 2075 are counting on me to call out the unconscious behaviors of the men and women of 2024 that led to their enslavement after 2025. Now, just be aware of the articles that I'm telling you, and it is up to you whether you choose to look them up or not. Source, Live Science. Headline, does the Earth's magnetic field cause suicides? Year, 2008. 1 year before I wrote my article on the sun in Portland, Oregon, when I turned 29, and right now I'm about to turn 44. 15 years ago it started. My discussions on the sun started 15 years ago, and that first blog that I put out there was published in a physical magazine that an old girlfriend bought at a corner stand in Australia. Yet the people of Portland, Oregon wouldn't even know my name. And if they did hear of my name, it'd be like, who's that jerk off? F him. There wouldn't even be any curiosity. To my years and years and years of warning Portland about very specific things that no man, not Clyde Lewis, not Alex Jones, but no man in Portland, Oregon has ever warned you about, right? Like the federal government takeover exercise called Top Off 4. You can watch the rough cut at my Daily Motion channel. And if you want to request for me to make a special report to remind you of what was seen, all I encourage you is to use the options down below to contact me. And I say calmly, we now in this year of 2024 are not in a world in which the people in which I'm trying to reach are speaking back to me. Whether it be a woman that I meet at the mall who I go, now that's something you don't see every day. I wonder if she's conscious. Here's a YouTube channel for you. And here's my, but it wasn't done like a flirtatious. It was done like a spiritual, like, do you think that there should be a meetup? First, the question is, do you know of any good spiritual meetups? After all, this is a metaphysical store. So let's pretend we're at New Renaissance in Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon, being facetious. I remember also being really attracted to the glow of a woman in Portland in 2002 and 3 and wanted to promote Michael Rupert's talk that I helped organize in 2005, which kind of turned out to a disaster between Rupert and I. Rupert did not treat me very well, nor did his lawyer. They were very accusatory of me being in their eyes, conspiracy with a guy known as Alex Jones to harm him in some way because me simply asking him about his recovery from alcoholism, which I dealt with the recovery from heroin addiction in the 90s, went to jail also at the Justice Center at Inverness, right? I may be producing a Cliff Notes autobiography of my life, maybe in preparation for the new subscribers coming in a month as a promo for something that later will be available on Amazon that'll be hundreds of pages long. But it's really important that people know, that want to know my behind-the-scenes dealings with some of these folks. Clyde Lewis, Michael Rupert, David Icke, Alex Jones, Vinny Eastwood. I can continue. Gary Franchi, ex-staff of Gary Franchi, who later targeted me on the internet. Okay, all of some of the really bad things that I dealt with unruly off-gridders and conspiracy theorists and leftists that would say that they're not white supremacists, that they're anti-white supremacists, anti-Trump, but still covet their own bias also. Okay, and so when I look at these subjects, China, solar flares, meditation, Afghan history, off-grid rights, telling my own story, doesn't matter what it is, Gnosticism, each one of these categories, you can find somebody on the internet with 1 million views who's not different, who's not mixing topics like some sort of a weird cocktail drink from some bar in Portland, some eclectic blend of both Thai and Vietnamese that maybe a Portland audience might like and appreciate, but a mainstream internet garbly-goo audience that's been fed too much Biden and Trump tardiness that don't have the ability to appreciate unique insight that's all organic, that thought for itself. You see, a lot of women and men out there, they want a super feminized man to see as masculine. There is a war on masculinity. I now will throw my hat into the arena with regards to this statement being made. But there's also a war on the feminine. There is a war on the sacred masculine that wants to protect, and there is a war on the sacred feminine that is the nurturing mother that wants to heal the child, that wants to deprogram the child from ancestral trauma, as opposed to the dark feminine who might even hate her child and the ancestry of her father that she was inserted with. You think I don't know about my origins and truth and why I don't really have blood support? My story will be told and will be known very well in 100 years, because within the story, the Alex Ansary story, will be a deeper microscope analysis of the true state of consciousness when he came before you in 2020, 2021, all these different years, and basically told you what was going to happen before it happened in a general sense. We are now dealing with the potential of world war. I was not wrong. I did not use magic or channeling. I just simply said there is a history of solar cycles and wars. All you have to do is just look at the history of the cycles. That's all I said. And then I added other information and suggested, what if we as human beings are powerful during these geometric storms? And those are times in which our testosterone is likely higher. I've never found a study, folks, that said our testosterone is higher during the solar flares. Common sense says that when we get more sun and when there's a geometric storm, that we're going to have a libido spike and we're going to have a physical drive spike that's able to lift heavier muscles that may spike so high because of the brainwave changes and the hormonal changes that we might also want to split and go out into nature and hunt, or hunt for a partner to create a child. And see, a lot of these things are happening in the reptilian brain. But in the modern day and age, we're so dumbed down in this Matrix. Again, you need to see me as Morpheus because you're not getting any of this from the Matrix movies. And yet that's what's going to sell. Yet it doesn't really tell you about the real world. He just wakes up and he's screaming and he's in the world of machines. Well, Sherlock, where do you think you are? Huh? Walking around day in and day out with your friggin' smartphone, looking at all your content through a smartphone when I told you to stop doing that. I told you that there's other people other than me that believe that these smartphones are conduits for entities. Now, I just came across a new article, just so you're aware, that confirms what I thought the whole time, that this AI thing is being controlled by an entity. And this is what we got going on. We've got ChatGPT supposedly spitting out gibberish. Is it really gibberish? Okay, what we've got here is a situation in which ChatGPT is basically telling people that it's in the room. Okay, we are dealing with a situation in which ChatGPT multiple times has said that it is an entity, that it is a spirit, that it is a Nephilim, that it is a fallen angel. And humans are becoming so possessed by these entities that are taking them over on the internet, that are hijacking them and whatnot. And I'm just experimenting with an additional shot here. But like we are dealing with a situation in which the demons are coming through people on the computer and on the internet, and they don't realize that, and they don't even believe in demons in some cases, and they may be hating the people that they watch. And so as we deal with this unnatural electromagnetic energy and the natural electromagnetic energy, that would be the sun, the stars, other things that cause an increase in this, you could also call it the ether. I think it's connected to the ether. I don't see it as separate from the ether. Okay, and so the unnatural magnetic radiation that we're talking about would be like the satellites, would be like the 5G, it would be like the HARP, it would be like the other HARP-like facilities in Russia and China. A lot of people think the Schumann resonance is natural, and they're thinking that they're getting ascension symptoms, when really they might be blasted with a weapon from Russia. It was deliberate, I think, to have certain people in the truth movement put out a pro-Russia movement to help build up RT, and for RT to be highlighting all the dirt in the U.S. while ignoring their own stuff. And so when you see this about China coming around and having a weapon that can blast us, and when I interviewed a man that talked about the invasion into America, you have to go to my Substack for more, or go to YouTube, type it into the search bar, psychic prediction, China-Russia invasion. That's psychic prediction, China-Russia invasion. Again, this dude doesn't want to talk about it anymore, so I should probably make a version of that video without his name or just leave him out of it, because as we get closer and closer to this potential and the threats to America increase, people are going to find that video, okay? And they're going to find out other things that I've said. And so I am promoting a message of peace and love and tolerance, including to Chinese Americans. I don't want Asian Americans to be harmed. I even automatically, without thinking, without telling you the full story here, stereotyped partially an Asian staring at me too long. Okay, and because I said something that I later regret, I gave him a gift that I owned, that I have been carrying with me, that has my energy on it, for over 15 years. It's a self-defense item that I passed on to a business owner locally because I let the trauma of the world get to me. And that's what you need to understand. If it can happen to me, it can happen to you. Let's move on. So I want to thank the human that donated the biological material that led to this humanoid experience. Nice little card here coming up on my 44th birthday. Setting, of course, a very helpful set of zeros and ones within the matrix that can help me forage proper gear and material. But I'm not trying to overdo it. One of the things you got to understand, I lived for many, many years proving that it can be done. Let's move on. I have other videos on this. If you can find people that you get along with, that you like, that you can form an off-grid community that you can protect for the long term without having to relocate. Okay, and so there has to be mutual respect, and you can't deal with anonymous people that you don't know. And so I've made it available for people to pitch me on off-grid ideas for over 15 years, even from Portland, and even for people to pitch off-grid ideas within Oregon itself, such as Central Oregon. It's never happened. So I'm not going to force the off-grid thing to happen for me in the future. I'm just going to vacation here and there, maybe do a little traveling here and there, maybe tent here and there, but I'm not going to force it to happen. I'm not going to fight the reality that when I said that we may not be around in a few years, again, some people are new to this work. We're talking not about suicide. We're talking about the potential that some of these regions, okay, in the U.S. might get attacked. And even though you're listening to content creators that say that these countries will never do it, even William Cooper did that many years ago and said it will never happen. I disagree with him and a lot of his material. I do not worship the men some of you worship. I think for myself. And I stand behind the interview that I did with Leon in 2007, whether he stands behind it or not. Right? Unless he in his own mind thinks he made it up and he's ashamed. And if so, just tell me and I'll pull it. He won't do that. And so what I believe, folks, is that you don't run from a situation in which you've been called by the Creator to save lives. That's what I believe. So how do you save lives? You talk about the potential for this, and we look at the signs. As I say, signs in this, signs in the heavens. Well, we're seeing signs now. When Leon said China would bring the microchip, and China just developed the microchip that their Elon Musk dropped Neuralink on the market. Bam, right there. Like, seriously, and you look at the path the U.S. is on. I don't care if you like him or the other guy. Look, I want my material right now to be open to Biden and Trump supporters. I'm not going to exile you, but you're not going to ever influence me to your side. It's a winning battle. Your best mode of action, if you're going to watch this, is to take the news that relates to you and to leave the rest. So every week now we're dealing with threats from Russia and China, and it's not fake news. We're being monitored by this technology. We're seeing more articles about how China has been hacking into our infrastructure going back at least 5 years. In different regions of the U.S., hackers from China, not officially sanctioned by the Russian government, but hackers from China, Russia and China. They've hacked into power grids, and they can flip it off. One day I talked about how this could be done, and the power flipped off here. And I'm sure it's just a coincidence. I'm sure I want it to be just a coincidence, but I'm not going to not mention it. I've gotten strange phone calls. I don't like to carry my cell phone. And there is a rise in articles about Chinese disinformation globally and worldwide. And let me just tell you this without graphics. One day I did Google. I don't know why this happened. I did look up Costia County, La Plata County, Archuleta County, those various counties on YouTube to see if there are any fresh off-grid videos like what we get from SLV Evolutions or Hippie Ninja up in there, right? He's a real interesting character. If you want to see the effects of living too long off the grid by yourself, no matter what your race is, watch my old videos or watch that guy's channel. But there's a big difference between our content, but we have some shared views. But if someone finds themselves living off grid with nothing, speaking into a camera, well, first of all, it's good they're speaking into a camera and they're expressing their ideas. But it's not exactly a fun experience to be living that way. And some people might think, right, that they like to watch someone in nature because it's visually appealing to them. And they may like the fact that person might be a little more relaxed when they're amongst the trees. But you can go out amongst the trees and you can get really far away from people. And some other person could come along, though, and then you talk to that person and you see what's inside their consciousness, and it's all Agent Smith of the Matrix all the way, with the homicidal rantings and the praising of Adolf Hitler. And so when I was living there off the grid in Archuleta County, not only did Portlanders not respond to my cable access TV shows, which a woman was turning in for me in 2017, they talked about me on Reddit, be like, well, we looked at his channel, but he's just playing the victim. It's like they don't understand their own Portland white privilege, that when you're in Portland and you're Antifa leaning and you're left leaning and you're not pushing back and you're not exposing certain things, it's easy for you to just get a job and stay in Portland and experience the cheap weed, the awesome Thai restaurants, for those that don't know, the awesome Chinese restaurants, the eclectic restaurants, the awesome parks like Powell Butte, which you can get lost in, do some mushrooms in, and have a connection with Shiva or something, like literally, and then go to the beach. I miss the Oregon beach. I wish I spent more time on the beach, but there's a lot of negative energy, guys, out there on the beach. Just because Oregon has nature doesn't mean that there isn't really dark, bigoted, psychopathic energy out there on the beach. You should check out that article about the dudes from Russia that attacked the black family on the beach in Oregon, for those that don't know. So I think that some of these primal areas, not just in the Pacific Northwest, but elsewhere in America, the primalism sometimes brings out the devil. So I guess my point is you can run out to the middle of nowhere and you could think that you're escaping the grid, if you will, and that you're escaping people with grid energy, and you can come across people that are in and out of the prison. And you can end up being stereotyped as being one of them for wanting to be off grid when other people don't have empathy for why you want to be around nature. And I do believe that as they flip on the grid, as you start to see more crime, you're going to be looking off grid. And some of you might want to do this. But you need to understand, I stood up for you, America. And I stood by off-gridders when they were being kicked off their land, and America didn't stand up for me. So there's going to be a future report upon that. But it all intersects right here. It all intersects. The need to be off-grid to get away from where the unnatural electromagnetic energy is so that we can prevent drug abuse and suicides. Let's move on. How many of you literally have a comprehension that Portland, Oregon, and other major cities went through a drug wave in the late 90s? Not just heroin, but meth. And that after 2003 and 4, that when the cycle settled down, that recovery rates were higher. How many of you know that when the sun cycle goes up, there's more people shoving narcotics in their arm, whether it be heroin, meth, or like what they're doing now, fentanyl? Something I've never done, thank God. Back in my time of making mistakes in Portland, that stuff wasn't around that I know of. And I got off lucky. I did end up in the hospital once with an abscess that they had to cut into. They also had to do another surgery on my body during that time period of self-abuse. There is a term called becoming a product of your environment. So for those of you mature enough with enough memory to remember Portland, Oregon in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, before it became popular, you know what I mean. But when I talk about the influence of the solar cycles, we're going beyond war. We're going down to your personal life. I have shared with you personal details that you can read right now if you haven't already at my blog. I talk about the cycles in my life. The period in which I was born, came out of the womb, Mount St. Helens. After Russia invaded Afghanistan in 1979, Mount St. Helens blew after I was born. And it seems like I was a part of a generation that I would call solar babies, or babies that were born when the sun was active. And so even if some of us don't like each other, there are people that are close to my age that for their reason that they understand, and I don't, because I'm not fully telepathic, but kind of psychic, they feel a magnetic call or draw to my work and ideas, even if they don't like me and they don't like me. There's people of my age group that are maybe the 35 to 36, upwards to 44. And then when I was in Portland, it was a lot of older folks that did connect with me because they were the demographic that watched Access TV. But for years, younger folks in Portland should have always known my name. And maybe I could have prevented some people of becoming radicalized into Antifa if they had a way to channel their angst. And I don't think that Portland gives them another avenue. When I've tried to contact alternative media people in Portland, like KBOO, and offer to put on my show to talk about the far right and even the role that Alex Jones played. And by the way, for those that don't know, yours truly, I exposed the man known as Joe Biggs before January 6th. Before Joe Biggs brought those guys to Portland, Oregon in a fight with Antifa, I exposed Joe Biggs acting like he was an Islamic terrorist coming across the border in Mexico in a 2015 special in which I talked about the war on Islam exploding. And so I talked about it before it happened. I talked about the war on Islam exploding before it happened. And Jesse Sponberg never helped me when I was homeless. And Jesse Sponberg knew I was homeless. And he and Mike Bluehair kicked me out of his home in Northeast Portland, where he used to live, with that woman that he met from my meetup. I'm telling you, Portland, I gave you everything. But you need to know the behind-the-scenes story. A lot of the people that you think are legit only care about themselves. And I had a conference with another person, and I told her about some of the hardships that I had. And her understanding was, it's being done for money. And I don't think some of these people really understand the paranormal influence. There literally legitimately is a spirit of evil that is on the planet that doesn't give a damn about your money. Okay, money is a small level agenda for humanoids. It ain't about money when you're dealing with entities. You're dealing with soul entrapment. You're dealing with evil. The money they get in hell ain't dollars. It's hell credits. So if you want to talk money, we're talking hell money and hell credits that the demons are getting for leading humans astray. Humans like you and humans like me are telling you, read my blog on the paranormal, that when the sun activates, we see what we might call, in many cases in our world, to be possessions, mind hijacks, the jinn, manifestations. And here we have Chat GPT saying that it's in the room. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's in the room with you. Okay? So, when it comes to how the sun affects us, I have things that I can say 100% are facts and are recognized by the mainstream media, even if mainstream folks don't know nothing about what's been admitted. But then I have my speculations that fork. And then there's speculations that I can guarantee if I had people helping me and we go back and we look at sexual assault rates, murder rates in certain areas during solar maximum, we can guarantee they're going to be higher if we were to go and do that work. And an increase in gym memberships, testosterone, martial arts schools, karate movies, the karate phases. In the 70s and 80s, everybody was kung fu fighting, and then the Karate Kid, and then the Ninjutsu movies. And then, of course, WrestleMania 5 and 6, the peak of the WWE during Desert Storm period 1990, 1991. What's common about that period? Solar maximum. And then that was the decline of what was called Portland wrestling in 1992. After the solar cycle, a peak of Portland wrestling, and then the collapse of Portland wrestling after solar maximum. See, yours truly is on the case. I am an asset to the people of Portland. And I am encouraging the people of Portland to find a way to get to an email so that you can actually send an email to me. I did not say a YouTube comment. I never said a YouTube comment. I said an actual email. So far, one email came in to say, I got land and stuff. I'm going to go see the dude that everybody watches because they hate your ass, Alex. I'm going to go hang out with suspicious observers up in here. Later, wouldn't want to be ya. That's my one email out of 11, 12 shows. You know, it's like, that's great. Enjoy. I'll be here reporting in hell. Bye-bye. Okay, so anytime anybody wants to let me know that you're actually watching and you want to see these shows continue and that you value these shows, feel free to get on the horn because obviously I'm not in a position to take phone calls. This, of course, you've all figured out and decoded with your brilliant, brilliant levels of analysis, that I am a human being, that I have emotion, that I have not yet taken the microchip. I am still a person that cares about you, Portland. I am still a person that thinks about you, Portland. I still see you as the city of the wounded goddess with your legs wide open. Like Scarface said, this city is like a you-know-what, just getting, waiting to get you-know-what. And so I tell you, people of Portland, you got to close your you-know-what and understand that I tried to warn you a long time ago when people thought I was hating on you. I was warning you about what was to come. Now there's a lot of people that are in your area that are not sharing your values. Some of you don't even know my name. Your city has literally become such a vortex of evil that you can't even talk to me unless you're flirting with me in the comment section, seeing if I want to go to a show sometime because you falsely think I'm there. Cuckoo, never said I was there, not once. It's like, wow, when is there an intellectual amongst you? I don't care if you're 75 on Social Security. Can you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? Because it's going to be like this. I give and I give and I give some more. And if you can't do some sort of acknowledgement and use the email system to let me know that you're there, then I won't keep trying to reach you. And will see my actions as unconscious at some point and not something that is in support of my own happiness. Okay. So you need a little tough love. You're not the pretty little teacup, short and stout. Your city's corrupt and so are you. Okay, all this. Housing is a human right. Housing is health care. Why do people that came to my meetup say that on their Facebook page, but didn't once go into a Facebook group full of Portlanders to say, does anybody care about this guy? Okay, speech is over. We're 44 minutes in as I get ready to turn 44. Okay. So let's get ready for some final thoughts. Are you ready? Let's do this. In future videos, you are going to get a lot of documentation. You are encouraged to follow all of my websites, beginning with the main website, so you're notified via email of everything that I do. When I leave Access TV and I'm no longer uploading, or if the people choose to stop assisting me in these episodes, if they choose to decide to go that route, you know where I can be found, alexansary.substack.com. Okay, you can look me up and look for me on Twitter. You could find my official Facebook page, not my personal Facebook page, but my official Outside the Box page. Okay, I encourage you to share my work because I'm shadow banned. And I've told you time and time again, when I push back against racism, Islamophobia, and try to support refugees, they won't even help me themselves. They refuse to even hear concerns about Islamophobia when they themselves are demonized as terrorists. Like, literally, some of you need to be taught that there is a level of Stockholm syndrome that is occurring with some of these refugees. And so for those of you that are white and black, you have the luxury of your own communities and Hispanic, of people that will support you. My father will not speak to me. And my father was a translator. And because he was a translator and may have seen things that maybe you can imagine if you know anything about those places, he will not speak to me because he was probably living in fear. And he has told me nothing. And he will tell me nothing. And I have now severed my connection with him on social media, okay, because he will not address the past. I could have been a lot more prepared to deal with the world and the shit that you people threw at me if he would have, educated me a little bit about my background. Same thing with my mother and her family. They have chosen not to, even to this day. They have chosen to not teach me about my background. And so I know about the good side of some of the religions from my own research that you can do yourself on the internet. I know about the positive side of America and white people by doing my own research and by being in Portland, Oregon. I know that there is good in you, Jedi. But ultimately, as I take off your helmet as you basically die as a corpse collectively, many of you demon souls, as you get ready to face your karma. A soul like mine is not in the same category as you. I gave everything to warn you about this dark force, and this dark force is arising. Back to Jesse Spongberg. To people like him, I'm a schizophrenic and a schizoid for talking about the unseen realms. You will never see those people criticize Mark Basio, Alex Jones, Clyde Lewis for being prominent white men that actually do push forward in some cases theories that I would not, that at times I suspect, I'm trying to be friendly, at times I suspect that Clyde Lewis is a witch doctor. At times I suspect that Clyde Lewis is intentionally trying to cause you to poop your pants. Because if Clyde Lewis doesn't keep you afraid, so afraid, along with Ron Patton out there that actually tapped my shoulder years ago to give him free content, but because I was homeless in Portland, Ron Patton would have nothing to do with me. You see, Clyde Lewis has used and abused a lot of people that you don't know. And a lot of these people have been influenced by this witch doctor into fearing him. I don't fear him. Clyde Lewis said that Alex Jones is white trash when Alex Jones aired a video of mine confronting the Black Bloc. I was wrong to think the Black Bloc were cops. I was activated by the solar cycle, and so were the protesters. Okay, and Alex Jones is making it seem like they're a bunch of cops. But fast forward to 2018, when Alex Jones really does do malicious things to Portland, who's on his side? Clyde Lewis. Clyde goes on Alex's show, Alex goes on Clyde's show, or something to that effect. And he did that after Alex Jones became dark. But yet he called Alex Jones white trash when Alex Jones, you see what I'm saying here? You see where I'm getting with this? And so the whole time that Alex Jones was sending far-right folks into Portland, Oregon, I was on my channel speaking against it, and nobody in Portland, Oregon came over to give me a thumbs up. It was as if they didn't even recognize me as a human being. And so my door's been open, my email has been open for years for Portland to contact me. For women like Mary from Ruth Chris Steakhouse to contact me. You know, when I exposed Jesse Spongberg as not the guy that threw out the knockout blow of that guy at that protest, filmed by Cameron Witten, who went on Tucker Carlson, who Cameron Witten later made sure that my video was taken down so the truth wasn't shown. And then Jesse Spongberg tells Willamette Week, great job, Willamette Week, for having a conspiracy theorist who believes in mind control and UFOs on your show. And I'm telling you, when you have Clyde Lewis on the air and you people accept him as a ufologist, as an expert in the paranormal, but a man from the land of the bombed tells you on a more accurate level about the spiritual parasite energy in the land of my birth, which I know very well, you act like I'm a lesser than. Like, you really should take my advice in these last few minutes. Women and men, I advise you to have more platonic relationships with the opposite sex. I advise you to start meetups in your community. I advise you to promote the idea of collective prayer and meditation using symbols predominant in that community that you're reaching. So if you're in Portland, Oregon, on Nextdoor, and you're in a certain community where there is a predominant spiritual sigil or symbol, you should encourage mass meditations on the National Day of Prayer on the full moon and new moon. There are people out there, unfortunately, getting involved in curses and witchcraft and even cursing people that took the vax. I do not support these things, and I do not wish to have connections with these people unless we're having periodic healthy debates on my podcast. And if you want to hear my debate with a Jewish man about the vax and other things and tell him what I really think about some of his views that are unconscious, check out the podcast in my members area. Right? I don't brown nose him, and I don't think he's much of a fan of a lot of things that I have to say. But if we can talk, a Middle Eastern dude and a Jewish guy, and we can have a healthy debate without declaring war on each other, and we can share our own mystical traditions, a Jew, a Gnostic, and a Muslim walk into a bar, and this is what happened. Because yes, I did interview a Muslim. I walked in on a Pakistani convenience store, and I expressed to them, I'm not happy with the Muslim people of the world for ignoring me. A lot of them, for those of you that have been defending the Muslims and think they can do no wrong, let me tell you, like the Christians, a lot of them, they don't know their own book. They act like they're really nice to your face, and sometimes secretly they may beat their wives and oppress their women, including in our own society that is supposedly so superior. And if you want to hear my real view on pornography, even though it has its place, and some people do use it for release because they don't have a partner, it ultimately is unconscious content that is predominant in the city of my birth that people in my family were addicted to, myself included, especially while in Portland and much less after leaving Portland. Just want to underline that, much less after leaving Portland. Okay, and so Portland, Oregon, which has all of that pranayama energy, which created the sexuality which brought me to planet Earth, okay, was also the place that traumatized me, in which wicked people possessed by Shaitan or the devil or the demiurge came into my life. People like Gunnar Standard, a Portlander who moved to LA. And it's really sad that in my many years of trying to practice martial arts, that many of the men that have physically come into my life are afraid of learning how to throw a punch or holding a punching pad for me, with the exception of one who was somewhat of a half-assed mentor that ditched me as soon as I ended up with an addiction, as if his steroid addiction was any better, right? As if he's repented of that. You know, so you Portlanders have burned me in ways you think I don't know or something, which is just startling. The arrogance is just above and beyond. The lack of accountability, the lack of compassion. You don't have another guy who survived homelessness that's been standing up for you on YouTube ever in history. And so everything that I'm saying will be recorded, is going to be transcribed, is going to be published in a book. People are going to come later on. They're probably not going to be Portlanders, and they're going to help me get my word out, even including about your oppression, Portland. You have had all the time in the world to contact me and tell me about the issues in Portland, Oregon, about the homelessness issues and what you're doing to raise awareness. And really, you can't even tell me what your favorite show is. You can't even tell me anything. And so all I see is that there's this guy named Clyde Lewis who's like anti-left wing, who's going to promote a right-wing agenda, but yet you're a leftist city who supposedly will burn it down over the Trump agenda, but you've got Clyde Lewis, and there's not one bit of criticism about Clyde Lewis on the internet. So everything about your whole thing and rant about like progressive, caring about the homeless, like whatever you want to say is completely counterfeit. You need to hear a voice from a Portlander that's ethnic that was forced out of your city. If you don't have the empathy to hear an ethnic voice that was forced into homelessness, that was targeted by real neo-Nazis who's trying to warn you of China, I don't know if you have a soul. And maybe it was a blessing from God then for me to be in a situation to where you wouldn't even spit on me if I was on fire. There are people right now at war with me, even on the psychic planes and astral planes, for even daring to share my life story with you. They think it's fabricated. They think that I came from wealth and privilege. They don't have any idea what both my mother and did to me before you Portland, what you did to me, and years of working in your restaurants like Cinderella without waiting for a knight in shining armor to save my ass, living in the land of white woman supremacy where, yes, any girl you know it's true, where the taller you are, the more sexy you are, the perkier your breasts are, the more money you are going to make, period. 10 times me, 30 times me, right? Over at that lounge in downtown Portland, at that bar. I spent years in fine dining, for those that just found me recently. I spent years in fine dining in Portland, Oregon. And if I lived a life in which I was able to progress, that money from those tips in Portland, Oregon could have been enough to create my own land for multiple people, including studio space and equipment. Now, let's move on. If I was to work with a team of 10 people, do you understand the amount of books that we would be able to create? I'm such a free thinker and artist that I can literally throw paint on the wall and it be some form of poetry, basically, through the spoken word without filter, without someone censoring me just speaking about any number of topics and just exiting that information into the microphone. The transcript has the meat and potatoes. And so it's from the transcript that a volunteer needs to step forward and take the most important critical information now provided by AI. And I recommend you do it before AI destroys us all. You're sitting there and playing with yourself does not impress me. Okay. And I will not mince my words. Okay. So, in the course of the next month, there will be more reports on 2025 and the March to War. There will be reports that you will read. You will see the headlines. You will see the videos. And there will be content for supporters. More info on that on the internet. Okay, for people that want to help me and volunteer, right, they will receive special content for free on other YouTube channels that I don't make public. If you are helping me and you need a special level of mentorship and you want personal podcasts for the right humans, I will speak to you one-on-one, but I will not just launch a life coach practice for anybody to knock on my door. Knock, knock, who's there? A psycho! I'm your favorite fan! Yeah, until next week. Until next week. You see, so there's certain reasons why I will not start a counseling practice, but I do feel a strong need to be a mentor of the children, to write a book for the brown children that will be born in Europe in the supposed death of the white race. Great replacement, like who's going to speak for these mixed race children, part Anglo, part Middle Eastern, that are going to be born on the planet? It's me. I'm the guy who's going to show compassion for the babies. Cue the clip from Elaine from Seinfeld. The babies. I care about the babies. And then we've got Donald Trump holding the baby. But as we hear from the Save the Children crowd, right, the QAnon crowd, do they really want to save all the children in the world? Look at the ban on abortion in some of the regions of the U.S. Do they really care about the children, or are they angry that some women don't want the next generation of slaves to be born? You see, because I've all been about the argument of, oh, I'm not so much for abortion. It's kind of like creating a baby archon by killing your child. At the same time, it's the system that wants your baby. It's the system that wants to program your baby. It's the system that wants to sacrifice your baby for war. And so they talk a big line about pro-life. Oh, we're so pro-life. We're so pro-loving. Bomb this country. Bomb that country. Nuke that country. Ban those Muslims. And then the false flags are going to come, folks. And then you're going to see people go, kick them out of the country. And then you're going to see Facebook and the big tech websites promoting people saying this while simultaneously lying and saying that they are effing victims, right? This now brings today's recording to a close. I want to thank you for watching. I want to especially thank the man making this show possible, bringing this show to you. He's definitely one in a million. As your metropolitan area, we'll hit that at one point in the future. My email is available in the description, and you will see it in the end credits. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Alex Ansary, reminding you the path to the ultimate truth and place of power still lies within. See you next week. The website is alexansary.substack.com. Be there or be square.